Hi and welcome to Mind Flux's Synth series. My name is Michael L. Penman and today we will be looking at Mass Effects again. This time, rather than creating an analog bass, we're going to be looking at creating a kick drum to support that bass. And what we're going to be doing is using the filter self-oscillation to do that. So we're going to have to initialize the Mass Effects. So I'm going to go into Quick Start and blank. So now when you initialize it, you're going to have to set up all your routing. So first of all, we're going to need a filter. And with the filter, we need to use the feedbacks to help with this actual self-oscillation. So you just plug in the output feedback into the input of the filter and the output of the filter into the feedback. Now, the filter is going to go into A. I'm going to have a distortion unit, so that will go directly into X. A then goes into B. I'm going to have a folder to create a sort of weirder layer on top. And that'll go into, I think I'm going to use a bit reducer again, and that'll just create like a top layer on the kick drum. So that'll go into X. And what I'm also going to want is maybe to control the FM. So as you can see, there's no FM button here, and that is because our filter is switched off. So once we switch it on, and I'm going to choose the scanner, we'll have our FM. So the FM, I'm going to want to be controlled by the oscillator. And let's just turn the FM down at the moment. And before we start creating our sound, let's go into the voices, put it to mono, and reset it. As well as look at it off. So the resetting, as you can see, is going to have more constant sound behavior, and that's really what we want with our kick drum. It's nice when you're working with more analog sounds like the bass we did last time to have it free, but for this sound we're going to want to have it reset. So now I've got a piece of MIDI, just a simple 4/4 kick drum. So now if we press play and let's just solo that, we will actually get some sound. It's not really obviously what we're wanting. So we're going to increase the resonance full to really get that self-oscillation. And then we're going to bring the frequency down. The frequency is going to control the pitch. And we're going to want it probably between 10 and 20%. So let's push that down. So just about there sounds good to me. We can also boost the gain a bit because it's a little low. And the keyboard tracking is pretty cool as well because it means you can pitch your kicks. So if I play it up the keyboard, we get a little bit of a different sound. But again, like when you're programming a kick drum, you really need to use envelopes. And you need to use these envelopes to control the pitch. And that's what gives you the kind of pitch bend and the boominess to your kick drum. So I'm going to want to set this up and just check it's correct before I do anything. And all you really need to do is make sure the sustain's all the way down. And we're going to do that with the amp as well. Remember, modulator 1 is dedicated to the amp envelope, as you can see. And to add a modulator to a parameter, all you're going to do is click on the modulator when you add, drop it in the little box, and turn it up. I'm going to turn it up to full, and the reason being is I want to then use the peak as my pitch amount. I'm going to add that to a macro, so I'll do that to macro 1, and we'll call this, just call it pitch. We also want to control the pitch bend, which in this case is the decay, because obviously we're getting a bit too much of a zappy kind of sound rather than a kick drum. So that's sounding good. That is our pitch bend, so we're going to take number 2, and we're going to add it to the slot below. And we're just going to work in a small range. I think if I go too far like there, it's not going to sound great. yeah, not a kick drum anymore. So often when I'm trying to set these, I'll put the amount to full and then just turn this down until I get the range I want. I think that's probably the max I would ever want to go. So this is going to be pitch decay. And let's just set this back to what I wanted. Okay. It's sounding good, but maybe what I would want to do at some point is control the release. So we can use the amps release, and I want to add that to both. That might be a bit too long, but I'll try it. To both these envelopes. What I'm going to want to do to the envelopes is switch them into one-shot mode, because obviously that's good for drums, and it should still sound pretty good. Yeah, not much change, that's good. You should really want to do that at the beginning, but sometimes I forget, like I have there. And now we're on to insert A, which is what I wanted was distortion. And I'm just going to use this one, and I'm just going to turn down the drive probably, because every time I bring it in, it's a bit too much. So, as you can see, that's going to be a good control to control. We'll call that dist for distortion. That's sounding nice. Now we're on to the kind of weirder layers, so we're going to move to B. We wanted a folder. And with the folder, I think I'll leave it on sign, and we'll just have a listen. Okay, and we'll add that. So I think I'll add the bitrate 2. I'm not sure if I'm going to use them on the same macro, but we can decide later. And again, that's definitely not frequency. So I'll add a nice kind of crunchy layer on top of our kick drum. So now, like we talked about, let's find our bit crusher. Yeah, let's have it more high pitch. So I'm liking that, but I think, as you could probably agree, it's kind of masking the kick in terms of it's kind of taken over a little bit. So what I would like is it to only come in for a small period of time. So let's use envelope 3. And you can see here I can switch it from the exciter envelope to an LFO, or what I want is the modulation envelope. And let's add that to the mix. Let's see how that sounds. Now we're going to control the decay. That's kind of like our click now. So we can use the click decay to control that mix. I think it's time for some effects. So let's add our EQ obviously and just give a little low boost. Let's add some hard clipping. Do we need some compression? Yeah, a little bit. And what could be kind of cool since it's a techno kick, to add some reverb. And I really like the whoosh effect. Let's take the color down a bit. Okay, so now that we've got our kick sounding good, let's look at using a series of external effects to do this. First thing I'm going to use is Native Instruments' very own passive EQ, which is of course an emulation of the lovely Manly passive. I'm going to switch band low into a bell curve, and our kick drum's in and around 47, and we'll just boost it to get a bit of body. Feel the low mids are a little cluttered, but rather than using the passive again, because I think I want to add a dynamic EQ to this, I'm going to add the EQ8. I'm going to find the frequency I want to take out, and then we'll add the dynamic section. So you can see, to find it, I'm boosting the gain off a bell curve as high as I can and just scanning through with the frequency to find that. And for anyone who doesn't know, if you want to increase and decrease the bandwidth while you're holding the number, just use the Alt key. So you have to hold the Alt and then move the mouse. So now I've found it, I'm going to put the gain back. Let's bring our envelope follower in. So it's going to follow the kick drum, and every time the kick hits, it's going to duck out the gain. But we need to set this up to be 50% and 0. If we wanted to duck more, to cut that frequency out more when the kick hits, we increase the gain. Bit too much. Now a bit of warmth and compression, so I'm going to use Native Instruments VC28, and I'm not wanting to do much, maybe like 1 or 2 dB gain reduction. So to do that, I'm going to increase the peak reduction. Now let's check the input. So I can see the output, so we're going to adjust the gain until we hit the little -7. Okay, that's sounding great. Last thing, let's use Xver's surprisingly free, absolute amazing compressor, OTT. Not entirely sure why it's free, because I would easily pay 100 quid for it, but anyway. So let's take downward off, and you have to be quite careful when you bring this in. As soon as you take downward off, it gets loud as hell. So I'm going to take the depth down. This is kind of like your dry wet or the amount of the actual effect, and I'm just going to leave the upward compressor on. I'm going to take the depth up a bit to add a bit more punch into the kick drum. I think now we've brought up the level of the reverb way too much, so I'm just going to take that down. And there you have it. We have created a banging techno kick drum using Native Instruments' brand new Massive X. Why don't you try this at home, and remember to subscribe and add the alerts so you can get updated on our brand new videos. So up and coming videos are going to include the ride, hi-hats and claps that you heard in the very beginning of the video.